In today's video, we're breaking down the process our family uses to travel places for weeks or months, potentially at a time. I'm going to show you how we piece this all together using standard flight booking tools and as well as some third-party booking sites. So without further ado, we're going to jump into Google Flights and I'm going to show you some tips and tricks that we use from that standpoint, and then we'll get into the house sitting part of it. Before we get started, I wanted to talk about the #1 resource our family uses to travel cheaply, and that's through house sitting. We use Trusted House Sitters, which is a platform that links you up with homeowners in different parts of the world, and you go and you watch their pets and take really good care of their home in exchange for free accommodation there. There's no exchange of money. It's an honest platform that links travelers like ourselves with wonderful homeowners throughout the world. There's a code in the description that you can use to get your first few months free, so definitely check it out. Yeah, without Trusted House Sitters, we wouldn't be able to do any of the traveling that we've been doing. It's been phenomenal. And the nice part is you can book your house sit and then go into Google Flights and find your flight based on that. For this particular video, I'm going to start with Google Flights, but just know that you can go either way. People will post house sits anywhere from 3 to 6 months in advance, so you have plenty of time to apply for the house sit, get accepted, and then book your flight based on that. So now we are in the Google Flights dashboard area, and there's a couple ways you can go about this, but let's say you are starting from your home city. Maybe you don't have a specific destination city in mind, but you have that general region in mind. Let's say we're doing a round trip here and we want to go to Europe, but we don't know what city in Europe. So the cool thing about Google Flights is you can type in different continents, countries, also regions within a continent, right? So for Europe's a great example because everything's pretty close together. So let's say we want to go to Northern Europe. You can choose that. And then what I typically like to do, unless you have the dates really well defined, I would just hit Explore to start things off. The default setting in Google Flights is to show you 1-week trips, all 1-week trip itineraries over the next 6 months. And this is optimized by the best prices for 1-week periods of time over the next 6 months. So it's going to show you everywhere in Europe the cheapest option for a 1-week period. Now, if you're going to stay longer, then this is a little bit more relative. Let's say we're staying 2 weeks, we can do that. But if we're staying longer than 2 weeks, then we'll have to drill down a little more. But I like to use this as a jumping off point because you can get a really good sense of what months of the year will work best for where you want to go, right? To find the most affordable option. So we can already tell if we're going from New York to Northern Europe, January, February is going to be the best time. But there's some other options here as well. Like if we wanted to go to Iceland, late April, there's a window there where the flights aren't crazy expensive. We could fly out like tomorrow to go to Bath or Bristol, but yeah, I don't think that's gonna happen. Now for this example, we're gonna pretend like maybe we decided on London, but we just don't love these dates, right? Maybe we wanna go when it's warmer. So we click London, it's gonna take us to this area. I would hit View Flights from here, and this is going to take you to a more expanded dashboard. The way we search this in Google Flights is we didn't choose our takeoff and arrival airports right off the bat. We chose cities. Why this is helpful is because this is going to show us all of the best pricing combinations between all of the New York area airports and all of the London area airports. You can see JFK to London Gatwick is the cheapest there. JFK to Heathrow as well. There's Newark to Gatwick, Newark to Heathrow. There's all these different combinations that you wouldn't get if you just typed in JFK to Heathrow. You get these ones, but you wouldn't get these other options that you might be interested in. And this can be helpful too if you have a specific airline loyalty program. Let's say that you have points in United Airlines. So you might want to be looking a little bit more at the Newark options because of that. Or maybe you have points in Delta, and so you wanted to look more at JFK or some other options there. Starting out with these broad city-wide searches is really a good way to find those deals right off the bat. Now, typically a way I like to look at this is I like to look at this top search bar here as sort of my broad targeting. So like I said, we're targeting the cities. We're not targeting the specific airports just yet. And then as we drill down, as we go down into this section here, these are all the filters. So this is really where I can fine tune this initial broad search criteria. So this section here is super important. First option is to choose the number of stops. Our trip that we're doing to Australia this year, we are flying through Fiji. Last year we flew nonstop down to Sydney, but by using some different parameters here in the search, we were able to find a better deal on Fiji Airways. So we're going through Fiji this time and ending up in Australia. That ended up being just a much better deal for us. We're able to actually get to where we're going in Australia much faster than if we flew there nonstop. But as I was saying before, choosing the airline is super important if you have a specific airline that you want to use. And the thing I like the most is you can choose by alliance. We have the 3 main alliances listed here. So let's say we had a bunch of points with Aeroplan, Air Canada, right? Air Canada's Star Alliance. You can use those points on pretty much any Star Alliance carrier. So if we choose just that, we can only choose from that, then that gives us all these options here. So now it's filtered directly through Star Alliance members. So now we could go to Air Portugal's website or United's website and see if we can use our points on these specific flights. The other thing that's super important when it comes to saving money is the number of carry-on bags. If you're traveling with 4 people, then you don't want to just select one bag. You want to select one for each person. This will help you avoid things like Jetstar and Ryanair, where there's some serious baggage limitations on their flights. This will kind of filter that out, so you'll see the actual true price of the ticket. You won't have to worry about upcharges quite as much. The next option here is price. I honestly don't utilize price quite as much in these searches. You know, my takeoff city, my landing city, I feel like that does a pretty good job in and of itself of filtering the prices here. And so you're gonna see the lowest prices, right? The lowest price will always be in green, and you can even choose cheapest from $12.56. Choosing the time of day though, this is pretty important, especially with a family, especially with kids. So let's say that you don't want to do the early morning thing. You don't want to be waking the kids up at 2 a.m. to drive to the airport. I'm not a fan of that either. You can choose departure times within a certain window. Same with arrival times if you're worried about that jet lag experience. And you can also choose it for the return route here since we did a round trip. Connecting airports is also another thing. So if you're going somewhere, if you're going to like a small island off the coast of Thailand, maybe you can't get there directly and there's a few connection options available. Like you go through Hong Kong, Manila, maybe Bangkok. You might want to be able to choose a specific place. Maybe we want to stay in Singapore and experience that amazing airport and even stay in the city for a night, right? You could also choose the layover duration in order to do that. So you could say, we want to stay there 18 hours. We want to spend a good night there and really enjoy it and experience the city. So flight duration here in the corner is another thing. This can come in handy as well for those kind of longer routes. Like for us from the US going to Australia is another great example. Super long flight going nonstop. Maybe we want to break up that flight. So typically find the quickest route between where you're going from to your destination that way. Like for Fiji, it's going to take us maybe about 18 and a half hours door to door from our house to Australia. We could have found that using the duration option here. So it's just ways that you can find the best timings for what you're looking for your family. So another feature I like about Google Flights is the price tracking option. This works in a couple ways. Let's say that we've decided on our destination and we like these dates, but the price is too much. We're looking for a lower price. So we can just go down here and check this for this date range, and Google is going to email us price updates based on those dates. So anytime there's a price change, you will be notified through your email and you can jump back in here and book the flight based on that. This has saved us hundreds of dollars. Even last year, we used this to come home from Australia. We found a really good deal. It was kind of last minute-ish. Without price tracking in place, I would have missed it. But there's another way that you can track prices, and that is by just the route itself. So let's say that we don't want to go on these dates for whatever reason. Now, it's not visible to us because we have 4 passengers checked here. You actually have to put this down to just 1 person. And now you're gonna see this any dates option appear. I usually end up doing both of these. This is now going to show us whenever the prices drop for New York to London, period. This could be February, it could be June, it could be any time, right? If you don't have a specific time of year where you need to go there, you can find some amazing deals by setting this tracker up. So those are kind of the main ways that I have used Google Flights. I know that there's a bunch of other stuff now with the AI integrations that they've added, but this is how I've used it to book pretty good, reasonable trips for our family. Now let's talk about accommodations. So our number one resource is Trusted House Sitters, and I'm going to start right there. I'm going to show you how to apply for a sit, how to improve your chances of getting accepted, and some other tips and tricks to find the best options for you and your family. The way I use this is, so it starts out here, you hit search for homes to sit. It's going to show you all of the recent house sits that are available. Just like any other platform, it's all about how you utilize filters. I'll start out with dates and then duration. So for dates, I'll typically choose a wider range. So let's say that we want to go over next summer and we want to do June 1st through September 30th or something. And by the way, this also helps offset those higher airfare costs as well, right? We were talking about how summertime travel is a nightmare. It's going to be much more expensive. It becomes a lot less expensive when you have a place to stay for free. You set the date range, you set the duration. Typically for an international trip, I wouldn't want to stay any less than 2 weeks. You hit apply. We have this set to anywhere in the world right now, so it's not showing it's showing a lot of American sits, which is fine. You can start to filter it by these date ranges and hone in on what you want. In our case, we don't have farm experience per se. If you do have farm experience, you'll have a much easier time getting house sits, especially down in Australia and New Zealand, the UK. You're gonna have a lot of people who live on a farm and they need their horses tended to. And if you're good at that and that's your thing, then by all means, you should highlight that in your account and try to apply for sits that require that, because there's a lot fewer people applying for those sits because that requires some expertise, some experience. For us, we are pretty simple. We will choose dogs and cats. Local attractions, I'm not too worried about that. If you don't have a car though, choosing city might be a better route, but I typically will just leave that blank. And then there's more filters. If you're going with a family, I would choose family-friendly places. A lot of house sits, honestly, they don't want kids staying there, and I have nothing against that. I totally get it. But this way, by checking that box, it's going to show us places that are welcoming to families. So that way, we're not going to be wasting our time applying for house sits that are going to reject us right away. So with all that stuff in place, we have all the sits globally within our date range for the 2 pets for at least 2 weeks, and we're good to go. Now, another thing that really makes this useful, similar to how in Google Flights you can set up price tracking alerts, in Trusted House Sitters you can set up email notifications based on all this criteria I just set up. So there's actually an option for save this search. And when I click that, I'll be able to literally save this search. I can name it whatever I want. Whenever there's an update, it's gonna send that update to my inbox. So I'll be notified immediately. And it'll send push notifications to your app. They have a Trusted House Sitters app as well. So it's super, super important. I highly recommend that. That way you're not gonna miss out whenever there's a new opportunity, because there's only so many applicants that they will accept for a given house sit. I think the limit is 4 or maybe 5. After that, it gets cut off, so you can't apply anymore at that point. So you don't want to waste time and miss out on those opportunities. But that's pretty much it. Then you'll go in and you'll click a listing and you'll apply for the sit. Now, for the application, I find that for anything like this, where you're trying to sort of get your foot in the door, make a connection with the homeowner, you want to make sure you're going to do that right away, right? Because if you don't make that connection in the application, they'll just throw you to the side. I try to introduce it with our past experience house sitting, especially when we have the advantage too, because we're going back to Australia. So we've gone there already, and we always highlight that in the application letter, right? We always say, hey, we were here last year. We had a blast. Our child loved it. He was very respectful, had a great time taking care of the pets. And we'd love to look after your dog as well, and use the dog's name and make it very specific. Show that you've taken the time to read through their listing and understand their requirements. Always include those kind of details. If it's a breed that you particularly like, make sure to include mention of that. Say, oh, I grew up with a dachshund, so this is really right up my alley. That kind of thing can go a long way in personalizing your message. So it's like with anything, you just want to make sure you're breaking the ice in that application. The good thing is there's no limit, as far as I'm aware, to how many applications you can send. I've sent off tons of applications, got rejected from plenty. That's going to happen too when you're starting out, because you don't have a lot of reviews. The other thing I would recommend doing is ask for a video call in that application. This does a couple things. One, it shows them that you're not just some bot who's on there firing off applications to people. It shows you that you're willing to take the time to meet the person, show them your face, have that next level of personal connection, because you're going to be watching their home. They want to make sure that you're trustworthy. I always offer to set up a video call. They don't always take you up on it, but you want to at least offer that to show them that you're making that effort. And on your end as well, because you don't want to go into a situation that's going to be not ideal for your family, right? But yeah, this is the best platform out there in my opinion. If you're interested in signing up, I do have a code that will give you 2 free months of use for Trusted House Sitters, which is super helpful. So this will be included here below the video in the description. Check that out, and also like and subscribe. We'd love to have you on board. We're gonna have a lot more content about family travel here coming out in the coming weeks. A lot of vlog content in and around Australia, which is where we're going here in a few weeks. Stay tuned. Now, the only downside with the Trusted House Sitters is you can't exactly choose your dates. Those are just the dates that you're kind of at the mercy of whenever that person's leaving. So you have to find, as I call them, filler stays, where it's like you're not really gonna stay there long term, but you just kind of need to get through a few nights. You might land in Sydney and have to stay there for 2 nights before flying to Brisbane. So for those kind of things, the first place I go will be Airbnb usually. Now, I've heard a lot of mixed things about Airbnb, especially with longer term stays. And again, that's why we typically don't use this for long-term stays. We use it for those filler stays. The way I will fine tune my search here, let's say we're going to London next summer. We found a great house sit in the middle of June. Let's say that the house sit starts on the 15th and we fly in. We can only get a flight in at a reasonable price on the 11th. We need to stay the night of the 12th to the 15th before we can go to our house sit. So I'd start out choosing those date ranges, hit search. Let's say we're doing the family of 4 again, so search. And I have it searched by homes in London. You can choose the areas too. So this is kind of a nice thing about Airbnb. If you know specific neighborhood names, but maybe you can't locate them that well on the map, but you just know the name, you can choose the names here. It's like Central London or wherever. But let's do kind of a wide search to begin with. So I have several filters here preset that I use almost every time in Airbnb. And this is really with a family in mind. The price one, I have it set pretty high just because I'm looking at London and that's really all you can find. For this example, so let's say our price range is gonna be down there, right? Because we're only staying, or I guess it should even be less because we're only staying 3 nights, I think. Let's say it's down here. That already dwindles us down to 32 homes, which is fine. The main things I want are a washing machine, because I guarantee with kids, you're gonna need to do laundry, right? Like we all know that that's a reality. I always choose washer. Free cancellation, you can choose that. Although I find with Airbnb, it really limits the search because not that many places offer free cancellation, unfortunately. I also choose entire home. This way, it's not gonna show you just like a room. They call it a place to stay or something where it's just a room rental. I don't wanna do a room rental if I have my wife and kids. So I always choose entire home for that. And then for bedrooms, I typically will choose 2 bedrooms for an Airbnb. I like having that extra space. I like my wife and I to have that kind of office option as well. You can choose 1 bedroom. I mean, if it's only a couple nights, 1 bedroom would be fine, but I like to have as much space as possible. So I'll usually start at 2. If the prices just aren't there matching up with that, then I'll put it down to 1 bedroom. Amenities wise, things like Wi-Fi are gonna be in there. If you're renting a car, free parking is super important, of course. Maybe a pool, but again, if it's a short stay, I don't care quite as much about the pool. Then you can choose a house, apartment, guest house. I'll typically leave that blank and just kind of go with this. Yeah, I'd say the main 2 things I'm looking for are washer and entire home. Price, of course, becomes part of it, but those are kind of the main things to start off with. Then you'll get your list of prices here. And then how I kind of narrow this down further is I look at the review counts. First of all, right? Review count is super important because a lot of times it will say guest favorite, but maybe that's because they only have 7 reviews and they were all 5-star. Well, that's a very small sample size. I like to make sure that there's a lot of reviews, several dozen at least, right? So like this is a great example, 119 reviews, 4.76 rating. That's pretty good, right? This one, 50 reviews, 4.96, that's amazing. So if it was between these 2, for example, this one costs a little more money, I'd probably pick it over the one with 7 reviews, just because I like the bigger sample size. You're gonna have fewer mishaps if they've had more successful rentals. Another site I've started using recently that I really like is Agoda. So Agoda is going to show you a mix of hotels, vacation rentals. I found the long-term stays for vacation rentals are very reasonable, even in the more dense areas, right? The bigger cities. We already booked a long-term stay through Agoda for this upcoming Australia trip. So I'm super excited about that. Another one is booking.com, which is similar to Agoda. This is another one I'd use for filler stays as well as for long-term stays potentially. If you're going to Australia, UK, America, it's gonna be probably too expensive to do a long-term stay using any of these sites. You're probably gonna wanna find a house sit. But if you're going to Southeast Asia, you can find some really good options here. They have a lot of great filter settings that I like as well, like free Wi-Fi, free cancellation. You can set a nightly budget. You can choose swimming pool, private swimming pool. I do the bedrooms too. I always like to do 2 bedrooms. Similar to Agoda, it has some pretty good deals. I'd probably rank this right next to Agoda as far as filler stays and long-term stays. And then I'd put Airbnb probably similar for filler stays, but towards the bottom for long-term stays. And that's really just comes down to what I was saying before about how most places don't have free cancellation. You have to pay up front for Airbnbs. And I've heard a lot of horror stories about people not being able to get their money back when things go wrong. That's why house sitting rules, it's the best. But yeah, this is really the workflow, how we structure our trips. Google Flights, if you want to start with that component and then fill in your trip with the house sitting. But like last year, we did the house sitting first and then booked the flights around that. So you can go different ways. There's not a right way to do it, it's just when things fall into place. That's the beauty of notifications, because I'm getting notified through Google Flights price alerts as well as trusted house sitter searches whenever there's new options available. So I can go through that each morning and see what's out there and then piece together the trip based on that information. And that's pretty much it. So that's how we're able to go stay in these faraway places for several weeks or months at a time. We've been fortunate enough, really through the house sitting, to be able to sustain that kind of lifestyle for those select periods. I can't recommend Trusted House Sitters more. That's really the genesis of really this whole YouTube channel and everything, because it allowed us to do that trip last year, and we're going back this year. Thanks for watching. If you guys have any questions, let us know. And we're excited to bring you a lot more content here in the coming weeks. I know it's been quiet lately, but we are gearing up for another huge adventure down under, and we're so excited to have you guys on board. So once again, thanks for watching, and we'll see you again soon.